There are 3-4 emperors outside, confronting Marine. There is a terrible joke inside, as an internal response. It feels scary to think about it. Even if Marine is the largest power in the sea, facing such a lineup and calculations, its odds of winning may not be 30%. Kaido stared deeply at the Joker in front of him. As Joker said, this is indeed an unprecedented opportunity to destroy Marine in one fell swoop, and once missed, it is likely to be never seen again. Kaido almost agreed. However, he still has one last hesitation. That scruples is Joker himself who made this terrible plan. Kaido is not afraid that Joker will turn back and help Marine. After all, Joker is also a pirate who may be more ambitious than Kaido. In any case, it is impossible for a man like Joker to stand on Marine's side. It's just that Kaido can't guarantee whether Joker will stand with him after Marine is defeated. 727 as Kaido's most scrupulous point. Although the two sides are now in an alliance, they are all based on the benefits of Smile Fruit and various secret arms transactions. And once Marine, the #1 enemy, is defeated, whether the benefits of the so-called transaction can continue to be maintained, but no one can say. In particular, the strength of Joker has increasingly made Kaido invisible. Kaido didn't want to. He finally defeated Marine, but there was such a big enemy who looked at him and gave him a backstab behind him. Kozuki Oden's Kaido was overshadowed by this method. Of course, he must guard against others and use that method to deal with him. Kaido's thoughts turned extremely fast. Soon, Kaido's eyes brightened, and he thought of an idea. That idea can perfectly solve all the troubles. Jihahahaha. Joker, you are such a genius. I didn't reveal the slightest what I thought, Kaido laughed and said. This matter, Lousy agreed. We are all pirates after all, Marine bastards, it's time to let them know that we are great. The muscles of Kaido's arm bulged up like a hill, and a domineering breath radiated from him. Everyone at Beast's Pirates shuddered with excitement. As Kaido boss finally going to make a move? With Master Joker, Marine's group of bastards who have been domineering for hundreds of years will surely fall out of their eyes and be embarrassed to the extreme. Everyone trembles. However, as the initiator of Dover, his complexion was indifferent, and his heart was even more unknowing. Kaido will definitely not miss the chance to defeat Marine, which Dover had expected. But based on his knowledge of Kaido, he supposedly would pretend to refuse and bargain. And since Kaido agreed with just one bite, he must have some horrible idea. Dover waited calmly for Kaido to follow. Really? Kaido rubbed his palms and said with excitement. With Whitebeard and red hair in the front, plus you and me, the victory is basically established. But after all, Marine has been in the air for hundreds of years, and those old guys cannot be ignored. In order to avoid any accidents, Joker, you how about looking at this plus Linlin? Dover raised his eyebrows. This is the machine front below Kaido. In Kaido's Linlin, besides 4 emperors and Charlotte Linlin, who else would he refer to? Dover's eyes flashed and he immediately understood the purpose of Kaido's move. He must not be at ease with himself, and at the same time he is not at ease with Whitebeard and the Redheads. Once Marine is defeated, Kaido will instantly become the lonely one. In order to avoid that from happening, Kaido wants to call on and befriend his aunt 4 emperors. I have to say that Kaido's move is really quite old. However, Kaido didn't know that the matter was in Dover's arms. Since we are going to start a huge war that has never been seen before, since we are going to smash the old era and create a new era. So, how can the 4 emperors, who represent the old age, not all enter the game? In fact, even if Kaido doesn't say anything, Dover has his own way to involve Charlotte Linlin in the top war. Seeing Dover nodded, Kaido was overjoyed immediately, and all his worries were gone, and he couldn't bear to laugh wildly. It's not too late, Joker, let's go to IWC now. How can such a world-shattering event be made clear on the phone? Kaido can't wait to tell the ant. Dover had no indispensable truth, and now set off with Kaido to go to the world where the Ant Pirates is located. Only the petrochemical beasts pirates, including the 3 plagues, are left, and they are still on the Ghost Island. Not only the 3 emperors, but also the Aunt Charlotte Linlin. This is to gather together the emperors of the 4 seas. At that time, the scale of the war will reach the point of horror, it is simply unimaginable. Kaido turns into a dragon, soaring through the clouds and driving the fog, heading straight for all nations. Dover stands with his hands behind him. His figure is even higher than Kaido. He can't see how to move, but the speed is not a bit slower than the latter. Before leaving, Dover intentionally or unconsciously glanced at somewhere in the Flower City. There, a beautiful woman like a noble peony was standing on the roof. Her beautiful eyes seemed to pass through the infinite space, and she was looking at her beloved man. Xiao Zi and Dover had a heart-to-heart relationship, and Dover had already passed a message to her when he came. Xiao Zi seemed to feel the man's gaze, and smiled sweetly, eclipsing the sky and the earth. She turned around and smiled at Yamato, who was not wearing a prajna mask behind her, with bright red lips bent. "Sister Yamato, our husband Kun-sama, we are about to do some great things that stun the past and the present." Yamato's pretty face blushed. Although she never said a word to Dover, under the influence of Xiaozi, she has really almost regarded Dover as her husband Kun. Thinking of that stalwart man who looks like a god, the love and admiration in Yamato's beautiful eyes cannot be concealed. Xiao Zi watched this scene in his eyes, and smiled even more, but there was a trace of firmness and sharpness in the depths of his eyes. The husband Kun-sama is as great as the sky, and her role as the husband Kun's woman is behind the scenes of the great war that is coming. That is, to capture Wano Kuni and cut off the back of Kaido in one fell swoop. Storm is coming. It seems that the entire sea is covered with a damp color. In a certain place in the sea, such a depressed color persists over the years. That place is one of Marine's greatest support to deter pirates, the great underwater prison where countless fierce pirates are imprisoned, impelled down. Shiryu looked at the gray-haired Marine hero Garp, walked into the elevator, and entered a dark room opened by the big prison. With a cigar in his mouth, Shiryu couldn't help but set off a sneer. He had already surrendered to Dover in secret, and Wilgo revealed some of his plans afterwards. Therefore, Shiryu knew that the second captain of the Whitebeard pirate group, who was kept alone in the dark room, was the son of the pirate king Roger. Looking at Garp's appearance, it seems that his relationship with the marine hero is also 4.6. Shiryu's mouth widened a little, and he felt a sense of admiration for the mysterious young master who had never been masked. In the palm of your hand, use One Piece's heirs as chess pieces, and play with Marine, Hero Garp, and even 4 emperors in your palm. That man is really scary. However, there is only such a terrible man. O is eligible for his Shiryu's allegiance. When the elevator went down to the bottom, the door opened, and a ray of light shot into the dark cage. The eyes of the young figure who was depressed and bound by the seastone chain was pierced by the sudden light. He raised his head and looked at the old man who was walking towards him. His back seemed to be a little more pierced than before, and he subconsciously cried out, "Grandpa Garp! Ace, you bastard! Why did you hide from the old man and become a pirate?" Garp looked at Ace, who was bound by the chain, and described the miserable tears in his old eyes, and said that he hates iron for nothing. Ace lowered his head silently, speechless. Garp sat down in front of Ace. The grandfather and grandson faced each other for a moment, and the atmosphere of grief and sorrow diffused. Garp asked sadly, "When you told me to be a strong seaman, do you know how happy the old man is? But you deceived the old man and you have fallen into this situation." Garp rubbed his fist, and his white beard moved. "What on earth do you let the old man do? Luffy boy, if he learns this news, what should the old man do, Ace?" A greater, suppressed silence. Tears burst into Ace's eyes. After a long time, he pleaded, "Don't let Luffy know about me, please, old man." Garp gritted his teeth. "I'm ready for Luffy to fly and hate the old man for a lifetime, but, sooner or later, Luffy will grow up and know about you 11, so Ace." Garp looked closely at the boy in front of him, no different from his own grandson, who was trapped in the picture at the moment. "Can you tell me the truth? Back then, why did you go out to sea so early? Even if you want to be a pirate, you don't have to be so impatient, or even trick the old man to teach you cultivation." "Ace, there must be something in this. The old man doesn't know why?" The reason why Garp came to see Ace, on the one hand, wanted to see Ace, on the other hand, Garp also wanted to understand the root cause of Ace's premature going to sea. Ace's throat rolled twice. His eyes seemed to have returned to the desert island of East Blue, and once again saw the man who looked like a god, and he had no power to fight back when he raised his hand. It was the man who made himself realize his weakness. It was the man who told himself Whitebeard's best name in the world, and confirmed his belief that he would challenge Whitebeard first and then challenge that man. This is the root of everything. And Ace is no longer the hairy boy who didn't know anything, he already knew the man's name. But this matter, Ace has been buried in the bottom of his heart, even the old man Whitebeard did not tell. Because, with the growth of strength and knowledge, Ace felt more and more the terrifying hidden under the man's indifferent expression. Even in the bottom of Ace's heart, it is even more terrifying and powerful than Dad. Therefore, since getting on Whitebeard's boat, Ace actually gradually extinguished and challenged the man's idea. Sure enough, there is something hidden. Seeing Ace's expression, Garp verified his guess, his old eyes stared wide. Tell me, Ace, who the hell is that bastard? Ace's face was tense, and it took a long time to sigh. The matter was over, and he didn't need to hide Grandpa Garp anymore. Ace had a dry throat and said a name that shocked Garp's body. It's actually him. Garp had an unbelievable expression. He touched the white flower's beard, and it seemed that there still remained the burnt smell of being chopped by the sky thunder more than a year ago. An indescribable anger surged into Garp's heart. Garp almost gritted his teeth and shouted out the name of the thorn that has actually been stuck in his heart. Heavenly Yaksha. Doflamingo. It turns out that everything is because of you. New world. Above the boundless sky. A dazzling azure dragon, tossing in the clouds and mist. Its body is as huge as a mountain, its speed as fast. I am afraid that anyone who sees such a dragon will be so shocked that he can't speak. However, what is even more unimaginable is that there is still a figure above the head of the cyan dragon. He stood with his hand holding his hand, and saw no movement, but Yunwu automatically retreated behind him, and the speed was not slower than that of the Shenlong. This scene looked like the cyan dragon, his mount. The man is naturally Dover, and that cyan dragon is naturally Kaido. Dover's eyes swept across Kaido's majestic dragon scales, and his heart was also a little strange. At the beginning, he almost thought that Kaido was the capable person of dragon fruit. It's interesting that the phantom beast species of fish and fruit can evolve into a dragon. Dover twitched the corner of his mouth. The fruit of Kaido is the fruit of fish, and it can jump into a dragon soaring into the sky. Its title of the strongest creature in sea, land and air can be reasonably explained. JD, a touch of strangeness rose in Dover's heart. It was as if there was a very powerful person who was talking about him. When the practice of seeing, hearing, and sex has reached a certain level, even if the distance is thousands of miles away, there will be some kind of harbinger of danger. Dover smiled immediately. At his level, even if it is Kaido, the strongest creature in the sea, land, and air, what about? What if it is the unknown and extremely powerful enemy? Can't let him shake long ago. The advancement of the times will not stop. Dover's steps in controlling the world will not stop. Even if the whole world is enemies, what about? Joker, Wan Guo has arrived, the old lady Linlin, she will be surprised when she sees us. Ha 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 ha. At this time, Kaido underneath, a buzzing voice came. Dover gathered his mind and looked down again. A huge sea area has already appeared. This is a maritime country called Toto Land, composed of 35 islands. Above it, people of almost all races in the world exist. Therefore, it also has a more resounding name, that is, the nations. A country that includes almost all races, with Cake Island as the center, 34 islands are scattered around. Whether it is stones, vegetation, books or gates, they all have life and can speak. Such a strange country unique to the world is the world. And the only one who can force everything together is the Four Emperors' aunt Charlotte Linlin, who thinks she is the most extreme. At this moment, the main island of the Four Emperors' pirates, Cake Island, is singing and dancing, and a lively scene. People of all races, together with flowers and plants, have smiles on their faces. Almost all of the ants, nearly 100 children, were present. Today, it is the day when Wan Guo will hand in his life expectancy to his aunt every 6 months. After the life is over, the happy aunt will naturally hold a banquet and have a lot of food. Those who have turned in for a month, no matter what they think in their minds, they have to cooperate with the aunt, and they are equally happy. Well, The huge ant, sitting in the center of the banquet, looked at the exhilarating atmosphere around, opened her mouth and smiled. Everyone, I'm very happy. The only regret is that everyone's height is too short, it should be taller, that is the real heaven in the dream. Beside the ant, Parasparrow, the eldest son, the minister of candy, dripped with sweat on his forehead. Higher. Is it to be as tall as my mother? How can normal people do it? Parasparrow knew that turning all people into giants was one of his mother's biggest dreams, so although he shuddered after thinking about it, he did not dare to show the slightest objection. The children of the ant on the field basically agree with Parasparrow's thinking. They think giantization is unrealistic and terrifying, but they all dare not say anything. Because mother's will is absolute in all nations. At this time, the ant yelled anxiously. Chef, haven't the cake been made yet? My mother is almost hungry. More than a dozen chefs, sweating profusely, said quickly. Okay. Mom, I've kept you waiting. Then, a huge cream cake that was several meters high was pushed out. Cake. The ant's saliva flowed out immediately. Just as the ant was preparing to start eating, and the atmosphere of Cake Island was at its peak. The originally cloudless blue sky suddenly became gloomy. What's wrong? Is it going to rain? God is too shameless, right? The banquet is only halfway through. The most damn it is that my mother's yaxing is also disturbed. Brother Parasparrow, just make a candy roof to block the rain, right? Parasparrow's long tongue was stretched out. Looking at the dark clouds that suddenly gathered above his head, a bad feeling loomed in his heart. This dark cloud doesn't look as simple as rain. Yes. This is not a natural dark cloud, but thought caused. On the other side of Parasparrow, a calm and serious voice came. Everyone looked at it. It was Charlotte Katakuri, the first of the 4 stars and the strongest second son under the ant. What did you find, Katakuri? Parasparrow asked hurriedly. Katakuri's muscles are tight. With his observation haki that surpasses everyone, Katakuri can feel that there is a great danger in the dark cloud. Everyone, get ready for the battle. Fight against? Is there an enemy invasion? Hearing the rare solemn tone of Katakuri, there was a commotion on the court. Who, so bold, attacked Cake Island? Moreover, such a big dark cloud is created, which clearly doesn't put us in our eyes. HMPH, the guy hiding in the dark clouds must be good looking. Everyone called the device. As the subordinates of the 4 Emperors pirate group, facing enemy attacks, they are all consistent weapons. Katakuri shouted in a deep voice. The enemy this time is different. It will be unimaginably powerful. The danger contained in the dark cloud, even Katakuri felt depressed. How could it be that simple? Some people think that Katakuri is too cautious and disapproves. How strong can it be? We are members of the 4 Emperors group. Suddenly, it was a sympathy. However, this noisy echoing sound, not long after it sounded, seemed to be choking the neck, and the summer stopped. A strong sense of depression that does not require observation haki, and it suddenly covers everyone's hearts. Along with it, a huge air current surged down from the sky. That is, the crowd raised their heads in amazement. I saw the dark clouds being pushed away, and a huge, hideous blue dragon head appeared. Dragon. It's a dragon. Shocked, someone turned pale and said. Does the legendary creature like the dragon really exist? This is too big. Even the 4 stars such as Katakuri, as well as the eldest son Parasparrow and others, were shocked and their pupils dilated. Dragon, is it? Parasparrow seemed to have thought of something, even more shocked in his heart. Could it be that the person at the same level as Mom came? The moment the cyan dragon head emerged, the ant's hand that had gone to take the cake also stopped. With the familiar breath on the head, the ant didn't need to look at it with her eyes to know who was here. The ant raised her head yinly, looked at the cyan dragon head, and shouted angrily with a sharp noise. Kaido, you old boy, take the devil fruit that the old woman gave you back to you. Do you go to the old woman's site to demonstrate? What? As soon as the ant's words fell, everyone present immediately petrified. Here comes the 4 Emperors Kaido, and the devil fruit of Kaido, or the mother gave it. The amount of information is so huge that everyone is dumbfounded. Above the sky, Kaido originally wanted to give the auntie to disarm her, but fortunately, it will take the lead in the alliance soon after. But I didn't expect that Linlin's old lady of damn it would tell his secret as soon as she came up. Make Kaido so embarrassing. Kaido coughed a few times before suppressing his heavy aura and disappeared. Ha ha ha. Linlin, it's been a long time. But you don't have to talk about that all the time, right? Besides, in front of so many people? Humph. The ant sneered triumphantly. Anyway, Kaido, don't forget to owe your old lady a favor. Immediately afterwards, the ant asked again. Also, why are you coming to the world? My old lady does not remember to invite you to come. Kaido's cyan dragon head shook, and a quirk flashed through his lantern-like pupils. Linlin, I'm here this time, but I want to give you a great gift. Big gift? The ant was taken aback. That old kid Kaido was so kind? Just as the ant was about to continue to inquire, there was a deep, chilling voice in everyone's heart, which came from above the dragon head of the beast Kaido. Buddha howls haha. It is indeed a great gift, but it depends on whether you have the courage to take Big Mom. The dark clouds above Kaido's dragon's head disappeared, and a calm figure with his hands on his back emerged. And at the moment that figure appeared, a power that was heavier and more terrifying than Kaido had just appeared, suddenly came to everyone's hearts. It's so heavy. Who is that person? Just relying on the momentum, it actually makes me almost out of breath. A more terrifying aura than Kaido, and that person is still standing on top of Kaido. Is there a stronger presence than Kaido? An uneasy mood spread on the Cake Island. The scene in front of me was really shocking. The hidden meaning is even more incredible for everyone. The muscles on Katakuli's body collapsed to the extreme in an instant, and the cold hair all over his body also fell. Just now, based on what he saw, he didn't realize that there was another person in the dark cloud. On Kaido's dragon head, there is a man unexpectedly, which surprised the ant Charlotte Linlin. The ant suddenly felt that the figure seemed to have been seen somewhere, and when she took a closer look, she couldn't help saying with a trace of astonishment. 7 warlords of the sea, Doflamingo, Joker? The words came out. On Cake Island, the ants' pirate group also changed from amazement to consternation. Doflamingo, Joker, the name of the dark middleman that has become more and more popular in the dark world in recent years, is almost unknown in the world. However, that is nothing more than a Shicibukai after all. In the hearts of the world, although Shicibukai is powerful and has a special identity, there is still a certain gap in strength compared to the 4 emperors. But now, the man who is only Shicibukai, is standing at a higher position than the 4 emperors Kaido, and the beast Kaido, who has always been fearless, did not show the slightest anger. Seeing that the visitor is just a mere Shicibukai, the ant's voice became extremely sharp. Kaido, you are really going back. A Shicibukai can stand on your head and pee? What peeing? Linlin, don't talk nonsense. Kaido was also a little angry when the ant said so badly. He lifted the dragon form, turned into a human, and stared at the ant fiercely. Joker and Lousy are allies. Alliance. The ant laughed even more. I haven't seen you for decades, Kaido, you really disappointed my old lady. You will actually form an alliance with a mere Shicibukai. Shicibukai is one of the 3 major maritime forces that rank alongside Marine and 4 emperors. But except for Mihawk, the eagle-eyed Mihawk, who knows his strength, everyone knows that Shicibukai is basically far below the 4 emperors. In fact, a considerable part of the current Shicibukai is the defeat of the 4 emperors, and even has secretly surrendered to the 4 emperors. Humph. I thought that Kaido would be very angry when he received such humiliation from his aunt. Unexpectedly, Kaido just snorted coldly, his eyes flickered a few times, and he laughed instead. Linlin, Joker is no ordinary Shicibukai, yes? The ant frowned. Kaido's reaction was beyond her expectation. But the ant still doesn't quite believe how much Shicibukai in a small area can do. The fierce gaze turned to the indifferent man who stood holding his hand, and the ant sneered. Joker is it? No matter if the old kid Kaido has made an old mess, but you want to be on the same level as the old lady, you don't have the qualifications yet. Dover looked calm and indifferent. His eyes were not emotional. He gave a warning to the ant and the children of the ant on the Cake Island, and said lightly. Qualifications are never required by anyone. But if you want to play Big Mum before accepting the big gift, I am also happy to accompany you. Discoloration. Everyone in the Ant Pirates group, Some can't believe it. That man who is only Shicibukai wants to challenge their mother. Although that guy's aura is indeed terrifying, Kaido seems to be afraid to neglect him for some reason. But stubbornly ingrained in the concept, people are already unbelievable. A Shichibukai dare to challenge the four emperors? What a crazy kid. The ant was irritated by Dover's indifferent tone. No one has ever dared to not put her in his eyes like this. Kaido, if my old lady kills this kid later, don't regret it. Ha 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 ha. Lin, if you can do it, just do it. Kaido has already slipped to the side, arms folded, as if watching a good show. His heart is sneered. It just so happens that Lin helps me to test the strength of Joker again. But Lin is deflated, and it will be no problem for me to secretly form an alliance with her. For Dover, Kaido has long been jealous, but has never been able to find an opportunity to test how far Joker's strength has reached. In addition, his purpose in coming to the nations is to forge a secret alliance with the Ant, to guard against Joker, Whitebeard and Red Hair in the future war. Therefore, Kaido is very happy to see the scene before him. That's good. The Ant screamed. In the next moment, a breath that was terrifying to the depths of the soul rose from the Ant's body. Although the Ant is still standing in the same place, invisibly, her soul is already huge enough to fill the world. Such a terrifying soul, I am afraid that no one in the world will not be afraid, right? Everyone on Cake Island was shivering. They had just handed in a 1-month lifespan, and they knew what their mother's attitude meant. The eldest son, Perispero, is unavoidable to dare. I have never seen my mother show such a strong soul power. That guy is going to be unlucky. Among all the people, I am afraid that there is only Katakuri, who thinks things will not be that simple. That man, Katakuri watched deeply, the man still standing with his hands high in the sky. It was the first time Katakuri saw a man who could not change his face under the deterrence of such a terrifying soul of his mother. The Ant released the power of the soul to ultimate, even Kaido was shocked. Gia. The Ant's soul seems to be in the sky, with scarlet eyes, staring at the man above the sky, and shouting a sentence that no one in the world is afraid to curse in his bones. Life or dead. The deterrence derived from the soul, at this moment, has reached the peak. Even the people on the Cake Island that have not been targeted, they all feel their souls are trembling, and they seem to collapse. The Ant, who is originally stronger in soul than ordinary people, and then has the ability of soul and soul fruit. On the level of the soul, I am afraid that no one in the pirate world is stronger than the Ant. The bell of death has already sounded. Will that man be afraid? Katakuri also watched this scene stubbornly. A ray of red light flashed in his eyes, and Katakuri wanted his vision to see the short-lived future, predicting the man's next move. However, Katakuri could not see anything. It seems that the man is a god that can't be detected at all. The deterrence of the soul. The man who was watched by everyone spoke again, and the corner of his mouth turned into a sneered arc. What a boring trick. Let me tell you, Big Mum, the real deterrence is what describes this kind of thing. Dover didn't see any movement, only his eyes narrowed slightly. In an instant, the unspeakable breath, centered on Dover, diffused around. That breath can't be said to be horrible or not, it is only pale, and it erases everything in the world from the paleness of color. Under the aura, the Ant's soul power collapsed almost instantly. And the whole Cake Island is also shrouded in that breath, and the magnificent colorful cream is only pale. People seem to have turned into stone, and in this pale hell, even the fear could not be felt. Only a few people still maintain a little awareness. Is this conqueror's hockey? There are still such conquerors in the world. Katakuri's heart is turning up with a monstrous wave. He is also the owner of conquerors, but his conquerors is compared to the high-altitude conquerors, who turns the world into a pale man. It is simply Firefly and Hyori competing for glory, and the two are not at the same level. Kaido, who was planning to take the opportunity to observe Dover's strength, twitched. Joker's current conquerors is obviously more powerful than when he collided with him on Ghost Island more than a year ago. As for the Big Mum that greeted Dover conquerors head-on, the pupils also shrank into pinholes in an instant. Conquerors? Aunt Charlotte Linlin's eyes also revealed incredible colors. Such conquerors is almost beyond the scope of human understanding. In the high-altitude man conquerors washing underground, the whole Cake Island turned pale. Countless people fainted, including many children of the ant, unable to withstand such pressure. Asshole. The ant's face became extremely ugly. Just now, she asked Chi to teach the other party a lesson. Don't want to blink. The other party didn't even move a little finger, and his side has already suffered a heavy loss. And the soul-powered talent who gave his best didn't play a half-point effect. On the contrary, he was even taught a lesson by the other party. The ant was very angry, picked up the red hat on her head and screamed. Napoleon. The hat immediately became like a sword. Prometheus. Not far away, a golden flame flew. Mom. Mom, here comes. The flame was wrapped around the sword. A sword that burns flames, an emperor's sword. Mom is angry. The emperor's sword, but there has been no enemy for a long time, so I can let my mother use this trick. If you can't make it, the entire Cake Island will be destroyed. Those who remain sober are all powerful elites under the Ant Pirate Group. Therefore, they know very well how terrible an angry mother is. And the Joker who only revealed a part of his strength and made the world lose its color, they now clearly understand that he can't be regarded as an ordinary Shichibukai. It is clearly in existence of the same level as the four emperors. Katakuri, stop mom, if this goes on, Cake Island will be ruined. Perispero said to Katakuri in horror. The only children under the ant's command are Katakuri, who is the strongest, and there is a slight possibility to stop her. However, Katakuri did not move, he is just a man on the sky. I didn't know when the two fists were touching them tightly. Brother Katakuri behind Katakuri, stood Bree, who was blocked by Katakuri for a large part of the pressure, and did not faint. Bree looked at brother Katakuri with some concern. Although she was a faithful brother blowing, as a person with the ability of mirrored fruits, she actually knew Katakuri's greedy brother hidden under the calm appearance. Eat the other side of a hot-blooded boy. Similarly, Bree knows that Katakuri attaches great importance to family affection. I am afraid that he has suppressed extreme anger in his heart for the fact that his mother gets sick from time to time and even kills their brothers and sisters. In the original book, Katakuri let Luffy fly for many times. After being defeated by Luffy, he even asked Luffy, will he come to defeat Big Mom in the future? It can be seen that Katakuri disagrees with the ant. But at this time, few people noticed the abnormality of Katakuri. People are all terrified for the upcoming battle of the four emperors level. The emperor's sword is broken and the sword is broken. The ant jumped, stood on Zeus, brandished a huge knife that was entangled in flames, and attacked Dover. Dover still looked blank. A mad woman like Ant always has to teach some lessons to become a little quieter, right? Just as Dover was about to move, he raised his brow and stopped. I saw that in the next moment, Kaido waved his mace and collided with the ant's emperor's sword. Moment. A huge ravine has formed in the sky. The only thing that was not affected was the sky where Dover stood. Huh? Kaido, you bastard, are you really going to fight against my old lady? The ant yelled angrily. Kaido yelled back. Linlin, that's enough. Stop making trouble. If you want to make trouble, go to Marineford and make a big deal. Having initially tested Joker's strength, Kaido cannot allow the two to continue fighting, otherwise his plan would be bankrupt. What did you say? Kaido's words made the angry ant suddenly startled, and immediately said viciously. Kaido, are you trying to hurt my old lady? Marineford, that's Marine headquarters. Although the ant is arrogant, she is not a fool. On the contrary, except when thinking about eating sickness, the ant can be regarded as very shrewd. Marineford, as the Marine headquarters, is like a cloud. Even if the ant is the four emperors, if she goes there to go wild, she will only be sent to impel down, right? All you say, Linlin, stop making trouble, let's finish talking first. Say quickly if you have anything, don't bother my old lady and teach that kid. Kaido saw that the ant was somewhat calm, he was relieved, and hurriedly explained their intentions. When she heard that Whitebeard's second team captain Ace, who was to be publicly executed by Marine, was the son of One Piece Roger, the ant was shocked. That fellow Roger has heirs left in the world. I was surprised when I first learned about this. Kaido said. Roger's son is going to be publicly executed. What is Marine's intention? I don't need to say more, right? Marine wants to use the means of killing the son of the One Piece to frighten them, these big pirates, and now everyone can see it. The ant sneered. That fellow Sengoku has a great idea. However, the old man Whitebeard would never allow such a thing to happen. Similarly, as the red-haired boy who was a former member of Roger's ship, he would not stand idly by. What will happen to Marineford then? Linlin, you can also think about it. Are you there? Hiss. In the awake children of the ant, there was a sound of cold breath. Do the 4 emperors play against the Marine headquarters? That's really just imagination, and it feels terrifying. The ant's face also changed, and she seemed to have a vague understanding of Kaido's intention. Ha 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 ha. Kaido suddenly laughed wildly. Linlin, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. With Whitebeard and red hair blocking the front, we only need to attack from both sides, causing Marine an unexpected hit. And Joker will act as Shichibukai, become an internal response, and give Marine a fatal blow. Linlin, the opportunity to destroy Marine is here. Kaido laughed wildly, almost spread all over the world. Everyone who understood the meaning of that sentence was petrified in an instant. Destroy Marine? This is normal, but I can't even think about it. After all, Marine is the well-deserved #1 power in the sea, and the top powerhouse alone is not comparable to a single 4 emperors group. But if it is the emperor of the 4 seas, they will attack Marine at the same time. So even if Marine has a deep heritage, it will definitely suffer an unprecedented blow, right? And, coupled with the mysterious and terrifying Joker, Sama should respond. This, it seems that it is not impossible to destroy Marine. Rao is an ant, and she figured this out in an instant. Although she looked very uncomfortable with the man named Joker, the ant also had to admit that Conquerors, whom Joker had just revealed, was enough to be tied with her. If this person should respond internally, they are the 4 Emperors level powerhouses who will attack Marine. Marine's advantage in the top powerhouse is gone. As for the superiority of the number of ordinary seamen, it has no meaning at all compared to the 4 Emperors class powerhouses. The ant only needs a strange sound to make the ordinary Marine Vice Admiral fall into a state of fainting, let alone those ordinary Marines. At this time, the man who seemed to be walking in the garden came to the place where the ant and Kaido confronted each other. Dover glanced at the ant, who was already moved, and said a word that made her eyes shine and completely shaken. Big Mom, I heard that you are studying a huge experiment. I can tell you that Marine's research on this experiment is already ahead of the world, and that is the blood factor involved in the realm of gods. All staff become giants. It is a big obsession of the ant. The blood factor can make even smile fruit, so it is of course possible to make a person huge. The ant's eyes shined. Really? Dover leaked a little information about the blood factor. It made the ant even more excited. Well, with this technology, everyone can be as tall as me, and the kingdom of heaven can be realized. Kaido on the side saw the opportunity and hurriedly agitated. Linlin, whether it is for your dream or occupying the world, this opportunity to destroy all Marines must never be let go. Well, of course. The ant didn't hesitate anymore and shouted. The group of bastards at Marine, since the master has used giant technology, but didn't take it out, it's really damn it, and must be severely taught. The words of the 730 ant indicates that another 4 emperors will join the war on the top. Coupled with Dover hiding in the dark, that upcoming, unparalleled huge war will surely be more than 10 times more terrifying than in the original work. Now, a battle between 4 emperors level powerhouses disappeared invisible. However, everyone who witnessed the conversation just now was in an unprecedented nervousness. Because the Emperor of the 4 Seas and the mysterious and terrifying Joker Sama, the war with Marine is about to begin. The conversation is over. As the host, the ant will naturally entertain the 2 partners Dover and Kaido. The grand banquet continues. The people who had just been stunned by Dover Conquerors, after waking up, they were shocked to find that the Joker was sitting at the table with his mother and the beast Kaido. Moreover, both Mom and Kaido dare not to neglect it anymore. After all, in that huge war, Dover's internal response was very important. Although the ant still dislikes Dover from the bottom of her heart, she doesn't dare to be as arrogant as she was just now. It can make my mother restrain her temper, this man. Parasparrow, Katakuri and others couldn't believe their eyes. A beautiful girl with big ruby eyes, light brown wavy shawl and long hair, sweet-looking, fair-skinned, wearing a pink one-piece dress, is also staring at her head in a daze. What kind of person is that man who is still calm alongside his mother and Kaido? The girl, but the 35th daughter of the aunt, is actually Charlotte, Pudding of the three-eyed family. Pudding has been discriminated since childhood because of the third eye, and he is even more afraid of the aunt. Naturally, for those who could suppress her mother for the first time, she didn't dare to lose her temper. Without moving her fingers, all the guys on Cake Island who had laughed at her when she was a child fainted. In Pudding's heart, curiosity inevitably arises, and even involuntarily, he is attracted by the man's kingly demeanor that is better than his mother and the beast Kaido. It may be an arrangement of fate. Soon, Pudding had an opportunity to learn more about Dover. Night. In a secret room on Cake Island. The aunt and Kaido were smiling darkly at the moment, obviously discussing some sinister plan. Well, GG, Kaido, you old boy, you are really insidious, you don't believe that joker at all. Of course. Linlin, you have seen that guy's hockey during the day. How far is his true strength? Even Lousy can't see through it. That's true. The man's hockey during the day actually surprised my old lady. Linlin, I am here this time to form another alliance with secrets. Fortunately, there is nothing wrong in that battle. This is good for you and me. Ha ha ha. Kaido, don't forget the kindness you owe me. Don't keep talking about it, okay? Kaido and the aunt are really discussing how to guard against and even deal with Joker's plan after that war. The aunt suddenly turned her conversation and smiled profoundly. In fact, you are afraid of Joker, you don't have to be so troublesome, as long as you control the other person's thoughts. Huh. Kaido was surprised, and immediately said in disbelief, Master Joker's idea? How is that possible? Linlin, don't you make such a joke. My old lady didn't joke with you anymore. The aunt turned her head and looked at another person in the room. My Pudding, as you know, has an ugly third eye, and has the ability to read people's memories. Pudding has been standing with his hands, listening to the secret words of his mother and Kaido. When they heard that the two were actually going to deal with the man during the day, Pudding was subconsciously worried. But she dared not show it. When the aunt looked at her and called her ugly third eye, Pudding's inferiority and sadness flashed past, but Shui Nen's pretty face showed a sweet smile. Yes. Kaido-sama, people are capable of remembering fruits. Oh? Kaido moved slightly. If you can know the thoughts in Joker's mind, then it is indeed more effective than all precautions. But thinking of the horror of Joker, Kaido is still a little worried. It's not that easy. If it is discovered, it will be terrible. Humph. The aunt heard this, and immediately laughed mockingly. Kaido, I didn't expect you old boy to be so afraid of that Joker. I really disappointed my old lady. Then what Marine headquarters and what world do you occupy? Just surrender to that Joker. In a word, Kaido's face turned into pig liver color. Linlin, your words are too bad to hear. It doesn't matter how long the aunt and Kaido, the friends who are like old lovers, have been fighting each other again. In short, after all, Pudding was sent out to read Dover's memory. Don't worry, Pudding. Before leaving, the aunt smiled and said, I have put ecstasy in Joker's room, he is probably asleep now. Pudding smiled sweetly. Thank you, Mom, my daughter will not disappoint your expectations. Turning around, Sweet Smile disappeared quickly. Mother sent her to read the memory of that terrible man who was undoubtedly 4 Emperor's level, but it was actually no different from asking her to get chestnuts from the fire. If she is discovered by that man, she will definitely die, right? And when the time comes, my mother will definitely not avenge her for the war with Marine, maybe even happier instead. Because, in the future, there will be no own daughter with an ugly third eye, dangling in front of mother's eyes. Pudding's heart seemed to be dripping blood. The footsteps did not stop. The fear of his mother has been carved into his bones, and Pudding has no courage to resist his mother's orders. After I walked out of the building where the secret room was located, a voice stopped Pudding. Pudding, are you going to that man's residence? Pudding was startled, and looked back. It was her mother's strongest general star Kata Cooley who stopped her. Mom asked you to spy on the adult who came during the day, right? Katakuri's mouth is hidden under the scarf wrapped in layers. The sharp eyes showed a scarlet color. Pudding inevitably throbs. Although the strength of Katakuri brother is not as good as that of his mother. But in terms of insight and the degree of confidentiality, it is undoubtedly the strongest existence in the ant pirates. It can even foresee the short-lived future. Pudding didn't think he could hide Katakuri, and nodded silently. Pudding, Katakuri said in a low voice, if that adult finds out, you will die. Since the adult dared to face his mother and the 2-4 Emperor's Kaido during the day, Katakuri knew that Heavenly Yaksha was not a soft-hearted person. If Pudding dared to peek into his memory, it would be more fortunate than fortune. Pudding's face was pale. Apparently 11 had anticipated the consequences. She trembled in her pale lips. Brother Katakuri, what should I do? If I don't follow my mother's orders, Tears fell from Pudding's cheeks. Katakuri's fists couldn't help clenching tightly. They are the ants' children. On the one hand, they have been living under the protection of the ants' powerful strength since childhood. On the other hand, they also hated the ants' arrogant and indifferent indifference to the life and death of their children. It's just that I am afraid of the horrible strength of the ant, and dare not show it. Relax, Pudding, I'll go with you. The two walked towards the palace where Dover was. Thank you, Brother Katakuri. On the way, Pudding was grateful. She wiped the tears from her face and pursed her mouth. But brother, you still don't want to go with me. Although Katakuri brother is very powerful, he can't be an opponent at all in front of an adult who can compete with his mother. Don't worry, Pudding, I'm not a fool either. Katakuri waved his hand. Pudding can only wipe away the anxiety and worry in his heart. Arrived at the door of the main hall where Dover rested. Before the door was pushed, a playful voice came from the door. Buddha Xiao, come in, 2 people. Pudding was shocked. That person knew they were coming. Katakuri looked as usual, and pushed the door straight in. Pudding was frightened, looking at the back of Katakuri brother, gritted his teeth and walked in. It seemed that there was a breath from hell rushing to his face. It seems that the whole body's blood is about to freeze. Almost suffocated. There are bleeding pictures in the pupils. Dead mountain and blood sea, endless killing. And at the end of the killing, an invisible figure sat on the scarlet throne. Meet Lord Heavenly Yaksha. Pudding was awakened by Katakuri's voice, only to realize that it was an illusion just now. It was an illusion that was awe-inspired by the indescribable aura radiating from the body not far away with Erlang's legs and red wine at random. Pudding gave a cold face, and quickly fell on one knee just like Katakuri. Farewell to Lord Heavenly Yaksha. Dover looked at it playfully, and the siblings in front of him said lightly. You come to me. What's the matter? Although he had some guesses in his mind, Dover wanted to hear the two tell him personally. Pudding, tell Master Heavenly Yaksha everything truthfully. Katakuri turned to look at Pudding. Pudding was startled, and then gritted his teeth and told the truth. Sure enough. After hearing what Pudding said, the corners of Dover's mouth evoked ridicule. You have the fruit of memory, so Ant will naturally not fail to take advantage of this. Speaking of your memory fruit 733's actual ability, it is a bit similar to Violet. Do you know that I am a person with the ability to remember fruit? Pudding stared at the man in front of him blankly. It seemed that even if she didn't tell the truth, the man would have guessed her purpose long ago. You really are not an ordinary existence. Katakuri didn't seem surprised. Mom and their plans are already in your master, right, Lord Heavenly Yaksha? Dover smiled without saying a word, just glanced at Katakuri who was kneeling on the ground. So, what is your purpose, Katakuri? Katakuri is sitting tightly on a chair, an unfathomable man. This is the man he identifies. One word at a time. I hope. One day you can come and defeat Big Mom. For this, Charlotte Katakuri, I am willing to be loyal to you from now on. Pudding looked at Brother Katakuri in disbelief. I can't believe my ears. Brother Katakuri is going to betray his mother? Even though Pudding just explained his mother's purpose, it is also a kind of betrayal. But, she never expected that Brother Katakuri was so decisive, and left no room for it. Dover looked deeply at Katakuri. In the original book, this person fought with Luffy and repeatedly released the water. When he finally fell, he also asked Luffy whether he would come to defeat the ant. Katakuri is a person who values affection and righteousness, and attaches great importance to family affection. To some extent, the aunt who goes crazy at every turn, or even kills her own children, is the biggest enemy of Katakuri, who values family affection. However, it was also because of family affection and the disparity in strength that he couldn't do anything to his aunt himself, so he used external force. But the aunt is a powerful and incomparable emperor, and the whole sea can beat the aunt's person, can be counted with one hand. How can Katakuri be so easy to encounter? In the original book, Luffy, the only Straw Hat recognized by Katakuri, is more of a gamble. Bet Luffy can come to the world again one day and defeat the ant. But now, encountering Dover, who can go hand in hand with the two four emperors, and even dared to make a move against Marine headquarters, Katakuri doesn't need to bet anymore. There is no doubt that Lord Dover and Heavenly Yaksha have the ability to defeat the ant. In summary, Katakuri will completely fall to Dover. Dove laughed loudly. Katakuri's refuge was an unexpected joy, and it was reasonable. Dover stood up long and stood with his hands up. 4 emperors. That's just a moth of the sea. Such moths will be trampled to death one by one day. Big Mom is no exception. Katakuri took a deep breath, and kowtowed. The subordinate will wait for that day to come. Dover was in a good mood and lifted up Katakuri. Turning his head, he looked at Pudding, who had been shocked and dumbfounded. I have to say that Pudding is an out-and-out beauty. His skin is like milk, and the little purple is gorgeous, like cherries. Although the ant looks unspeakable now, she heard that she was a beauty when she was young. No wonder she could give birth to such a daughter. It took Pudding a long time to come back to his senses, and noticed that Master Tien Yucha was watching her, knowing that he had to speak up too. Pudding has been living in an environment where she was discriminated against by her aunt since she was young. Pudding had no feelings for the ant, and he no longer hesitated at the moment, and fell to Dover. In this way, Dover got the allegiance of the 2 children of the ant with no effort. One of them is Katakuri, who is second only to the ant in strength. Moreover, Dover believes that when he attacks all nations, more members of the ant pirates will turn to him. This is the truth when one gets more help, but one loses one. Pudding, you can take part of my memory, so as to hide it from Auntie and Kaido. Dover deliberately created a part of the memory and let Pudding show it to Kaido, so as to completely dispel the worries of the latter too. When Pudding finished taking the memory fragments, Dover looked at the little beauty close by, and a nice fragrance appeared on the tip of his nose. With a move in his heart, Dover suddenly stretched out his hand and lifted Pudding's bangs covering his forehead. Pudding's body trembled, his pretty face pale as paper instantly, and his eyes even revealed despair. I saw that in the center of the bright and white forehead, one eye was tremblingly closed. This is Pudding's third eye. Pudding is actually a tri-eyed clan. Because of this third eye, Pudding was discriminated and mocked by the ant and others since he was a child. He saw my eyes. Pudding was terrified. This third eye is the source of Pudding's low self-esteem. She was afraid that Lord Heavenly Yaksha would not accept her refuge because of the ugliness of her third eye. She who has betrayed her mother, but there is really nowhere to go, a dead end. Open your eyes. There was an indisputable voice in my ears. Pudding didn't have the courage to resist at all. In despair, he opened the third eye on his forehead. The eye was large, dark brown, trembling, full of tears, and glowing with tears. It was pitiful and pitiful. It is said that this eye can still be awakened. Once awakened, it can see through all the secrets of the world, and even the historical text can be interpreted, which is very mysterious. Dover touched it with a big hand, and sighed sincerely. Pudding, your third eye is so beautiful. See the fragments of memory brought back by Pudding. Kaido and the ant were overjoyed, and no longer doubted. For the forthcoming battle, it is even more gearing up and can't wait. After all, the 4 emperors and Marine are rivals, and if they have the opportunity to completely subvert Marine, how can Kaido and the ant not be excited? At the same time, Marine headquarters, Marineford. In recent days, Marineford has presented an extremely busy and depressing scene. Outside the port, warships return almost all the time. Marshal Sengoku actually recalled the marine military forces of the branches all over the world, and those who can recall the headquarters, they have been recalled to the headquarters. I can't believe it. With such a terrifying military power, Who is Marshal Sengoku planning to go to war with? Hey, your news is too late, right? I haven't heard of such a big wind. Shortly after, Marshal Sengoku will publicly execute Fire Fist. Can you not pay attention to it? Fire Fist Ace? Is that the captain of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates? No wonder, the enemy is the terrible Whitebeard. Huh. Even if it is Whitebeard, we Marine has assembled so much power, we will definitely make it come back and forth. These ordinary Marines have never seen Whitebeard, so they have no actual impression of Whitebeard's horror. On the contrary, Marine not only has more than 100,000 troops, but also 3 top combat powers such as Admiral, Marshal Mr. Sengoku, and Hero Garp. It is no wonder that ordinary Marine will be confident of victory. However, as the initiator of this war, Sengoku, the president of Marine, frowned more and more as the day of execution arrived. In fact, if it is only against the Whitebeard pirates, Sengoku's own estimate is that they have a great chance of winning on Marine's side. However, for some reason, Sengoku always has an ominous premonition. That ominous source is not Whitebeard, who claims to be the strongest in the world, but... Sengoku's eyes flickered uncertainly. Soon, he actually called someone. The man was in a red coat, he was extremely burly, and his expression was indifferent. Even facing Sengoku, he was arrogant. Sakazuki, all those Shichibukai are here, right? Sengoku stared at the man in front of him. This person is actually the last of the 3 admiral, the lava fruit capable person, Sorosuke nicknamed Akainu. Yes, Mr. Marshal, all those villains are here this time. Facing the destined attack of the Whitebeard pirate group, Marine naturally spared no effort and went all out. Shichibukai was also forcibly summoned. Sengoku nodded, but his face was dark. Sorosuke, I asked you to come this time because I wanted you to help stare at someone on the battlefield. Sengoku said suddenly. Oh? Akainu was quite surprised, and asked in confusion, who? Brother Doflamingo. Which guy? Akainu naturally knew Dover, frowning, a small Shichibukai, is it necessary to stare? The old man's goal is Whitebeard. Don't underestimate that man, Sengoku said solemnly, hesitated. Sengoku couldn't tell the embarrassment of being blackmailed twice by Doflamingo. Anyway, you do what I said, understood. Now that Sengoku gave the order clearly, Akainu nodded. However, Akainu's heart still disagrees. It's just a small Shichibukai. Even Shichibukai can't be considered the strongest, and he can't be valued by Master Sakazuki, who has the highest combat power and daring to challenge the 4 emperors. When Akainu left, Sengoku sighed. In fact, Sengoku can't be sure. Does the source of the anxiety in his heart come from Doflamingo? But Sengoku has no more time to determine and test. The war is just around the corner. If he is investigating a Shichibukai now, then I am afraid that the war has not yet started, and the people inside are already panicked. In order to stabilize the military's spirit, Sengoku could only ignore Doflamingo, the damn it guy who made him hate it, for the time being. Everything will be said after the war is over. Sengoku took a deep breath and picked up his mood. I got up and stood up and walked out the door. Before the war, he had to meet the 7 villains of Shichibukai. In the conference hall not far from the marshal's office. The atmosphere is extremely heavy, square round table. 7 ordinary people sitting there will be frightened when they see it. They are tall or short, or look terrifying, or handsome and beautiful. These 7 people are very different in appearance and temperament. And the only thing in common is the arrogance that comes from the bones. Dover looked at the 6 Shichibukai around him, but only stopped for a moment on a few people. One was Hawkeye, who lost to him that day and seemed to be more aggressive at the moment. The other was Blackbeard Teach, who laughed triumphantly and didn't know he had become a doll of Dover. A faint smile was drawn from the corner of Dover's mouth, and he finally fixed his gaze on the body of the world's first beauty, Empress Boa Hancock, who was sitting next to him. The beauty of this woman made Dover, who was surrounded by countless beauties, couldn't help but admire. It's been a long time, Hancock. In the current conference hall, in addition to Dover, the other Shichibukai members are the Pirate Empress Boya, Hancock, Hawkeye, the world's largest swordsman, Dracule Mihawk, Storm Coon Bartholomew Bear, Shadow Fruit Ability, Moonlight, Moria, Blackbeard Marshaled Teach, As for the seaman Jinbei, because of his close relationship with the Whitebeard pirates, he was unwilling to take action against Whitebeard, and was imprisoned by Marine in the great undersea prison. The 6 Shichibukai present were all unruly and self-respecting, and they had little conversation with each other. Therefore, when Dover greeted the Empress Hancock, his voice was very low, and his head would inevitably be passed by. "It's been a long time, Hancock." The last time Dover and the Empress met were when the Celestial Dragons were arrested in Roz. I said hello, but for a long time I couldn't hear the other party's response. A long-lost frustration rose in Dover's heart. I have long heard that the Empress Hancock is extremely cold and hates men most. I didn't expect to ignore him. Dover, who has always been surrounded by beauty, naturally felt a little uncomfortable. But the discomfort and frustration disappeared in a blink of an eye. Even though Hancock is beautiful, his strength is not weak, but he hasn't reached the point where he has to pay attention to it. If you can capture the hearts of beauties, it will certainly be the icing on the cake. But if it can't, it doesn't matter. For the upcoming world-shattering war, for Dover's huge plan to count the entire world into it, what can a woman count? Dovuso closed his eyes to recuperate, and his mood was also unwavering. However, where did Dover know? Just now, the reason why Hancock did not respond to him was not because of the high coldness, but because of being shy. Yes, it's spoiled. After seeing the scene where Dover subdued celestial dragons, the stalwart figure of the man was deeply imprinted in Hancock's mind. After returning to Nine Snake Island, Hancock started to burn. He was weak and his mind was full of Dover's shadow. It took a long time for Hancock to return to normal. Hancock's sisters, as well as the people of the daughter country, thought that Her Majesty was in the room alone this year and was trying hard to cultivate. But how did you know? Hancock's room is full of photos and news from Dover. The female emperor has already fallen completely. Even if he was willing to listen to Marine's call this time, it was just to meet the man next to him. In fact, after entering this conference hall and sitting next to Dover, extremely accidentally, Hancock was already nervous, and the crystal-clear skin of his whole body collapsed tightly. Finally saw him again. Hancock almost raised his throat with his heart. Although she was sitting on the surface, her expression was cold and repelling people thousands of miles away, but the corner of her eye was actually looking at the man she longed for. And when Dover took the initiative to get close to him and even called her Hancock, Hancock's brain was blank for a moment, almost venting. He still remembers his concubine's name. Is he proposing in a concubine? Yeah. How can this be? How can you propose to someone as soon as you meet? They are not ready yet. After a moment of blankness in my mind, there are countless brain supplements, and even the brains have been supplemented to the night of the bridal chamber. Hancock was so shy, he naturally forgot to respond to Dover, causing the latter to think that Hancock was too lazy to talk to him. The brain supplement was finally over, and Hancock barely recovered from his shyness. She glanced at Dover with watery eyes, and saw that the latter was closing her eyes and resting. Her eyes flashed, and her heart hummed slightly. Today, Hancock is wearing a purple-red patterned cheongsam with a perfect golden ratio, porcelain and white jade legs, and an amazing length. Is this the pirate Empress Boa Hancock, who is known as the #1 beauty in the world? It really is a fairy. On the field, there was a hefty smile. It's the newcomer in Shicibukai, Blackbeard Teach. Hancock despised Blackbeard on the opposite side with a high-pitched look. The red lips vomit lightly, with unspeakable nobility and contempt. Disgusting man, he is not qualified to call his concubine by his name. Blackbeard's smile was stagnant. GG, really cold enough. Hancock dismissed Blackbeard and raised his hands. His black straight hair flew up, and then fell to his waist. The beauty at that moment seemed to make the dim room brighter. Hancock didn't care about other people's gazes at all. After that, he just secretly observed the reaction of the man next to him. Seeing that the other person was still closing his eyes, he felt uncomfortable in his heart even more. In spite of a ghost, Hancock Porcelain White's right leg suddenly lifted and placed it on his left leg. This action seemed to be extremely accidental and touched Dover's leg. Dover, who was closing his eyes and rested, suddenly felt the strangeness of his legs. Opened his eyes in surprise and looked at the stunning beauty beside him. Accidentally? Still not careful? Do not. Like a strong person of this level, how can there be so many carelessness? It's just that. Didn't she hate men and just didn't want to talk to herself? How? Dover thought for a moment, and felt that there was only one possibility. Hancock must have been intentional just now, even though his eyes were a bit playful. Dover was about to speak when suddenly there were a few footsteps outside the door. The door opens. 3 figures appeared. It was Marine Marshal Sengoku, Chief Staff Officer Crane, and the hero Garp.